Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Van Damme Nation. My name is Jay. I will be the host of this bi-weekly podcast with, a rotating panelist. But today I've got
week
every other week.
Okay.
Not once a week. I can't do this once a week. But tonight I am joined by Max and my buddy Mike over at Mike McGTV. So, let's get into this. Let's start with our first Van Damme, our first experience with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Max?
My first Jean-Claude Van Damme experience is with the movie Double Impact. It's weird because the first time I heard about it, my parents had went to see it because it was rated R, I think. But they went to see it, and then they came back and told all of us kids about it. And from their explanation, I knew that I had to see this movie. And when I finally did see it, it was everything I dreamed it could be. Double Impact. Jean-Claude plays some twins, and they're separated at birth, and they come back together, and it's just a whole lot of Jean-Claude Van Damme fun. But that was my first experience with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Mike, what was your first experience with the actor known as Jean-Claude Van Damme?
I'm not really that big a Jean-Claude Van Damme fan like you guys are, really.
Don't lump me in with him.
I'm not as big a fan as Jason then. But I mean, there's some stuff I enjoy. I remember the first thing I ever really saw of his all the way through was the other movie with the word double in it, Double Team, the classic team up with Dennis Rodman.
Oh God!
And I was like, this is dumb, but there's goofy enough stuff in it for me to be entertained by it. And since then, I've seen a couple of other things. Of course, I enjoyed him as the villain in The Expendables too, and I liked some of the Universal Soldiers. I've caught fragments of here and there, yeah. I'm definitely thinking this one that we're going to be discussing today definitely ranks high with regards to the cheesiness. But I can appreciate the dude's physicality. He's very flexible from the looks of things, and he's got a tough guy persona. So,
yeah, my first Jean-Claude Van Damme experience is, I'm pretty sure the first movie of his I saw was Death Warrant, and yeah, Jean-Claude Van Damme, I'm not going to kid myself. He is by no definition the greatest actor to ever live, but his movies are definitely a guilty pleasure of mine. It's one of my memories I have as a child going to the movies. Every summer, my dad and I would go see the latest Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, and that might be why it stuck, because that was always our thing to do. And I remember the year that I was fucking stupid and naive. I was excited that he had 3 movies coming out in one year, and I think that year was Knockoff, Double Team, and Universal Soldier 2. So, I mean, obviously the quality of films around that time was not the greatest, but we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about this movie right here, No Retreat, No Surrender. If you tuned into our Sunday podcast, you will know that some of us had a little too much to drink when we were watching this film, and it was a lot. The experience that I had, I really wish we had done an audio commentary as we were watching this movie. I forgot how little Van Damme is actually in this movie. He's got a really short scene at the beginning, and then the movie is about some Russian mobsters that are trying to turn, all of the karate, make a big karate league essentially, and they want this kid's dad to join, and there's a fight, and then the dad breaks his leg and becomes a whiny person. There's a lot of whining in this film, right? A lot of whining.
yeah.
Jason, I'm sorry to break in, but
yeah,
the Russian mobsters, they wanted to create the karate league so they could use it as a front for their mobsters.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they're just like, hey man, come do karate, and everyone's just like, no, I don't want to do karate with you.
Max, your thoughts on this film?
No, goodness sake, am I still here?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah,
You're still here.
We can hear you.
All right, cool. Yeah, the movie it's every racial stereotype and they really, I mean, I guess there were no Asians in this one, so there's that. But it's really fun to watch. I didn't remember how bad it was. I really liked this movie when I was younger, and it's just the black friend rolls up on the bicycle, and there's a basketball rolling out in the middle of the street. So he's got the boombox taped to his bicycle, and he's pumping out fresh 90s beats, and he starts dribbling the basketball, and then he's rapping and breakdancing like not 3 minutes later. You got the fat redneck white dude who just like got food all over his face all the time. There's a lot of good stuff in this movie. Unfortunately, Jean-Claude Van Damme is not one of the good things in this movie. Like, he's barely in the movie for like 5 minutes.
Actually, I beg to differ. I think one of the best parts of this movie is the final fight sequence between Ivan the Russian and Jason Stillwell.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, it's the. I like that Jean-Claude Van Damme's playing a Russian too. That's great. But no, it's he's not. Yeah, he's in the movie like right at the beginning to establish that he's the dominant fighting force, and then you don't really see him again until the end. Like even when there's that mob scene, where they're threatening the girlfriend's brother, with the biggest karate trophy you've ever seen. They're threatening that guy. It's a different enforcer that they bring with them. Like Jean-Claude isn't even there, so so he's barely in the movie is all I'm saying. But this is great. I like it at the end, when he's fighting, he's like, you remember, no retreat, no surrender. But they really only said that one other time in the movie, and then right after they said no retreat, no surrender, they retreated.
They run away.
Surrendered.
Yep, they run away. There's a lot of running away in this movie.
So yeah, I mean, like it's great. It's one of the fun like shit movies to watch, but it is really bad.
This is a group experience. I think I had a lot more fun watching this with Max and our mutual friend Ryan, because just the banter between all of us as we're watching this film. Because I had watched it last week by myself, and I definitely had a better experience watching it with the group. But yeah, so this kid Jason, he goes to this birthday party, gets beaten up, runs off. Oh wait, no, he goes to Bruce. No, yeah, he goes to Bruce Lee's grave after that, starts crying, help me, Master Lee, help me, Master Lee. And then he goes home. His dad sees that he's been fighting because he has one tear in his shirt, and makes that leap of faith, and then destroys his garage dojo. What'd you say about his garage dojo, Max? Or was it Liz?
What do you mean?
That he never has to worry about getting a girlfriend?
Yeah, I mean, like he's just spending all his time in the dojo. Like, so chicks really dig that, like when all you do is kung fu in your backyard dojo.
Mike, what were your impressions of this movie?
Well, first off, Max, there is an Asian stereotype in it. The ghost of Bruce Lee. Come on.
I apologize. That was like.
So yeah, there is an Asian stereotype. Yeah. I don't know if I agree with you on it being like racially charged stereotypes. It's just the 80s, and the 80s were all about these really corny, larger than life people or personalities, I guess. If anything, Jean-Claude Van Damme is the most subdued performance in this entire movie, because the main guy, what's his name, Jason, he's kind of a puss. Not gonna lie, he runs away from, or when he does get into altercations, then he runs away. He runs away when his dad trashes his little fangirl cave to Bruce Lee. Again, like you said, crying at the grave of Bruce Lee, the actual grave of Bruce Lee too. So it's like, that's a little weird. And yeah, the fact that the title is No Retreat, No Surrender, but like you mentioned, there is a lot of retreating, at least. His buddy, his sidekick, I just attribute that to being like, hey, guess what? Breakin' and Breakin' 2 were big in the 80s too, so we got to get a little bit of that Breakin' or Breakin' 2 electric boogaloo dancing going on in there. So, yeah, sure, why not? I don't understand. I consider the villain to be Scott. Forget the Russian, or forget Ivan and forget that whole B plot. I consider, because they're just lampooning Karate Kid. Scott's the actual villain here for no reason. He hates that people enjoy things like karate or like Bruce Lee, yet he himself is enrolled in a dojo. So I don't get his logic for why he's harping on someone like in Bruce Lee if he himself is taking martial arts.
Oh, he hates him because he said LA karate was better than Seattle karate.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's the stupidest motive ever.
Right.
But then like he didn't even say that. It was just the fat guy who told him that he said.
Yeah, and it's like, why are you listening to this pure physical specimen of a student? Clearly, he's trustworthy, and clearly he knows what he's talking about as he's hawking down birthday cake and donuts. Yeah, plots just kind of crop up and out of nowhere. The dad is pretty quick to forgive about his son wanting to be in martial arts. The guy's girlfriend pops up out of nowhere. That was explain away. It's like, oh yeah, we met each other when we were younger or something like that, or over the summer. And I'm like, cool, it would have been nice to see that, but whatever. And yeah, the fight at the end is pretty cool and all. I don't buy it, but it's pretty cool. But yeah, Karate Kid's a great movie.
Yeah, I made that same reference. But one of the things that I liked in this movie is how we saw him get beat up at the party, and then as he's running away, not even 10 seconds later, we're getting flashbacks to the thing that we just saw of him getting beaten up at the birthday party. I thought that was really, really neat.
Dude has some serious psychological problems when you slow down and think about it. Like he's just a shade away from what's his name in Sidekicks, fantasizing about being with Chuck Norris. Like he's practicing with the ghost of Bruce Lee and talking to himself. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's one shade away, because I think that the Sidekicks kid knew that he was daydreaming, and this dude really thinks he was trained by Bruce Lee.
He still got trained by somebody. I mean, that's something,
himself. Right? He was trained by himself.
Yes.
He had the power in him all along.
And he also had all the Bruce Lee tapes and videos and posters and magazines.
I do got to say, Max pointed this out as we were watching the movie. The way that Jason and what's the other kid's name?
The black kid?
Is it RJ?
Yeah, RJ.
Yeah,
the
RJ.
way that they met is actually very similar to the way Max and I met when we were kids. I was outside of my house and Max rolled up on his bike. Yeah, no, there wasn't a basketball. Max did a whole rap number on my grandfather's front lawn.
I got out of the rap game pretty soon after we met. But I'm pretty sure like we could sue them.
Well, instead of Bruce Lee stuff, I was playing with G.I. Joes, and like I said, you rolled up on a bike. It's similar, right? Anyway, like Max, I loved this movie as a kid. I rented this movie way more from Hollywood Video than I care to admit, and I loved it so much so that I wrote a sequel in one of my notebooks, which was pretty much just the same movie again.
There was a sequel.
Yeah. There was two of them. I have not actually seen them because they didn't have anything to do with the first one. They didn't have Van Damme in it, and this, awesome plot never got me to
Karate Kid 3 and 4.
Yeah, Karate Kid 3 and 4.
No, I think the sequel was about actual like getting into shit. And can I say shit on here?
Yeah.
Getting into actual shit, and like they went to Vietnam, or not the same character, but like they had to rescue people from evil generals and stuff.
Yeah, I was really into martial arts as a kid, so watching this movie, I always skipped certain scenes. Like I really liked the middle training montage. Like I said, as a child, watching it now, this movie is very cheesy, and it honestly was really difficult to watch when I watched it by myself. And then, like I said, when you got a group of buddies and you guys are drinking and have something to make fun of in the background, this movie is a lot of fun. Yeah. I still get a kick out of the final fight sequence. It was worth sitting through the movie for, but like Mike said, what's that? Sorry.
Funny thing, though, to tie it back into the focus of this podcast, Van Damme, is I'm looking at like background stuff on it, or I was looking at some stuff about the production, and apparently he was always connecting his kicks, and everyone was telling him not to. So he knocked out the guy who played Frank Peters. Like he actually roundhouse kicked him and knocked him out, and then the guy. Timothy Baker, who plays the dad, I believe. He's an actual martial artist, and it's like, stop making contact with everybody. And despite all those warnings, he continued to do it.
So then, like, did they actually have a karate fight after that? Like, you know, it's like, you kicked me in the face for the last time. I'm not retreating or surrendering.
Well, I guess that was probably one of his. I mean, it was one of his first roles, actually. Like one of, you know, where he had a pretty substantial part for what it was. So, you know, he was probably not quite used to stunt work, as it were. He was just used to straight up competition, and it was like, oh, I got to pull back my punches. Technically, okay, I can't do that, but
Yeah, I'm looking real quick to see what our next movie of Van Damme's we're going to be doing, and it is Bloodsport. That will be coming up in 2 weeks. One of the other things that we're going to do on this podcast, and we'll get to it here in just a second, but Max, on a scale of 1 to 10, roundhouse kicks, how many roundhouse kicks do you give No Retreat, No Surrender?
This is going to get 3.5 roundhouse kicks.
Wow, you're going higher than me. Mike, how many roundhouse kicks do you give No Retreat, No Surrender?
I give it about a 5 because I enjoy it for completely. It's utterly stupid, but I still enjoy it for that at least. Yeah, it's average for me. It's about a 5.
5 roundhouse kicks.
I am going to go 3 roundhouse kicks, and if you're watching it and you're drinking, this movie is definitely a 5.5 roundhouse kicks. But yeah, I give it a 3. We have a lot more bad Van Damme coming up, and in my opinion, some good Van Damme coming up. But one of the other things we're going to do on this podcast is discuss Van Damme news. There's only 2 quick stories, and I'm going to get into those real quick. I don't think we need to really do too much discussions, but one of them today happens to be Mr. Jean-Claude Van Damme's birthday. Happy 56th birthday to the man. What was that, Max?
I was just going to say, we should probably explain the rules of No Retreat, No Surrender drinking game, so that when people do watch it, they can play and enjoy it as much as we.
By all means, Max.
All right, so whenever the fat guy has got food on his face, you drink. Whenever someone does anything racially stereotypical, i.e. playing, picking up the basketball and dribbling it for no apparent reason, you drink. Whenever someone retreats or surrenders, you drink.
Whining. You drink when they whine, too.
Wine and drink whenever Jean-Claude Van Damme goes up.
Yeah, drink something light. Don't drink something like this, because it's not going to end well for you.
Or do drink something, fall asleep halfway through the movie.
Anyway, the other Van Damme news story that's happened a couple weeks ago is Jean-Claude Van Johnson has officially been picked up for an entire season, which if you have not seen the pilot to this, which we will do an episode on this here soon, it is actually a really good, fun show. I highly recommend it. It's getting great critical buzz. It could be, his comeback back to the forefront. It's produced by Ridley Scott, and it's got some pretty good backing behind it too. So definitely check it out. I'm glad that we're getting a whole season because it was a lot of fun to watch for 20 minutes. And some of the cheesy movies, Van Damme makes fun of himself through the whole thing, and he does a really good job of it. So I definitely recommend checking that out. But that was our first episode of No Retreat, No Surrender. Next week, we're going to be doing Bloodsport.
That was our first episode of what?
Van Damnation, doing No Retreat, No Surrender. Thank you, Max. I'm tired. And I'm still hungover from Sundays. What happens when you're old and drink too much? But yeah, we're going to be doing Bloodsport in 2 weeks. Hell, I might get excited and want to do it again next week. This whole thing started off as a joke on one of Mike's shows, Remake Revolution, where Dan said that he wanted to get me on doing reviews of every single Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, and I wasn't going to do it. And then Max is like, you need to do this. You need to do this.
I didn't even know it was a joke. I thought he was totally serious.
No, it started off that he had never mentioned it to me before. And then Max like, you should do it. You should call it Van Damme It. And then I was doing research and I found out there's actually already a Jean-Claude Van Damme podcast, which I'm going to try to get one of those guys on this show. And we came up with Van Damnation. So I want to thank Max because this was his idea too, Dan's, myself. And I want to thank Mike for popping on for my first episode. This should be a lot of fun. You can tune in every Sunday night at 8 o'clock as we do our normal Three Geeks podcast. And this Sunday at 9 p.m., we're going to be live streaming my wife as she watches The Walking Dead on our Facebook page. Because if Daryl dies, trust me, you're going to want to tune in for that because it's going to be a lot of fun. I might actually be kind of scared for my life.
All right,
and
well, who do you really think is going to get it?
I honestly think a lot of the chips point towards Daryl or Maggie.
Isn't she pregnant?
Yes,
in the
that's
show?
why the show needs to do something because it's stale. The only people they're killing are, F-list characters, and they're doing too much walking. They need to do something to get themselves talked about more.
Fair enough.
At least that's my opinion. But yeah, check out Mike on youtube.com/Mike McGTV. He's got a lot of good stuff. Like I said, check out Remake Revolution. The first episode was Spawn. The second episode was Fantastic Four. It's a lot of fun to listen to. Good time, some laughs to be had. And my name is Jason. So for Three Geeks Podcast, have a great night.